Hi, my name is Dr. Uri Burstyn. I'm a veterinarian in Vancouver, BC, and I'd like to welcome you to my series of practical skills for pet owners. Today's video is going to be a little tutorial on how to get your cat to eat new food. Now, we often have to change cats' diets for a variety of medical reasons, and as most cat owners know, cats can get pretty finicky about their diet. The way vets describe it is that cats develop food affinity or food addictions quite easily. Now, cats typically get obsessed with food if it's the only food they've had for a long time. They're neophobic, they don't like change too much, and while taste is important to them, they actually get quite particular about texture as well. And unfortunately, when we have to, Unfortunately, when we have to change their food for medical reasons, we often don't have a lot of choices in terms of taste and texture. Food is a tool like any drug or surgery that can be used to maintain the health and welfare of our little patients. Yes. And unfortunately, in some cases, the food is the most powerful intervention we have, such as kidney disease, diabetes, obesity. So, if you're lucky and you have a cat like this who will eat anything, you simply take the new food that your vet prescribed, you put on the table, and voila. And this is always worth trying. Now, a lot of people talk about gradually transitioning foods, and sure, if you're just changing foods at home, gradually transitioning them does make sense. When we're talking about clinical diets, where this is a tool that we're using to manage a specific health condition, I don't bother with doing the slow transition if it's not necessary. Put the food down. If the cat eats it, you just thank your lucky stars, because your life just got a heck of a lot easier. Now, if you're not so lucky and your cat doesn't want to eat that one food that will save its life, what do? Well, there's a couple things you can do. Most important thing to realize when you're transitioning cats is that cats don't like change, so you got to take it slow and easy with them. You give yourself lots of time. You make the diet change, which is what we call it, a diet change, a 2-week, 3-week, month-long project. It's a project. There's no specific timeline. We just do it as fast as we can, but we're not going to be rushed. And what we want to do is we want to give the cat some choice. We also want to get the cat used to the new food. And the classic way of doing that is to just start a little bit of the old food and start mixing in with the new food. You could be changing from wet food to kibble, kibble to kibble, wet food to wet food. It doesn't really matter what you're changing from and to. The basic principle is you add 10% new food, 90% old food on day 1. On day 2, you go up to 20% new food, 80% old food, and so on and so forth by little 10% increments until at the end of that, your cat's just eating the new food. Now, if we stall anywhere along this process, for example, if the cat eats a little bit of the food when it's 50-50, say, but once you go over that, they start sort of turning away and being a bit off their food, you can always just take it back one step, go back to 40-60 and then push it up to 50-50 again. So this is what I mean by taking your time and making this a longer term project. So gradual mixing in of the new food into the old food typically does the trick for most cats. Now, there's certain things you can do to speed the process and make the food a little bit more acceptable. We don't want cats to ever starve, so sometimes we offer 2 dishes side by side. One has a mixture of new food and old food. One has just the old food, so if the cat really turns their nose up, they can just eat from the old food dish. And then you slowly decrease, every day you decrease the amount in that dish until it's no longer enough to keep them full, and then they'll hopefully pick at the new food dish. Again, having had time to get used to the smell and the flavor and the texture of the new diet. You can also try to disguise the flavor of the new diet, and we have a couple tools for that. One that I really like to use is you simply go to your local supermarket and get tuna in spring water. Now, tuna is typically sold in spring water or oil, not the oil one, tuna in spring water. And you use just the water from that can to sprinkle it on the food. Most cats love that flavor, and it helps them accept the new food a little bit easier. In terms of other ways to flavor the new diet that makes it a little bit more acceptable, we don't have too many options. And to be honest with you, typically in these cats, you don't want to feed them anything other than the prescribed diet, so you are going to be a little bit limited with it. But in some cases, it's okay to mix in some other protein like tuna or lean chicken meat to flavor the food. Often that's not necessary, and you really should only be doing that if the vet says it's okay, because in many conditions where we use diets, such as kidney disease, feeding a high protein meal like that is actually quite harmful, so you don't really want to do that on your own. Always check with your vet before you make any changes like that. So another thing you can do to flavor the food that is typically okay in most health conditions is a product from Purina called Fortiflora. I'm not, just full disclosure, I'm not sponsored by Purina. They're not paying me to say this. This is actually something I use in my practice all the time. It's a probiotic powder. It's hydrolyzed proteins, so it's okay to use in cases where you have inflammatory bowel disease or food allergies. And cats seem to quite like the taste of this, so if I sprinkle this on the food, it does really encourage Mr. Pyre to eat, as well as many of my patients who are reluctant to try a new flavor. Normally I don't need to encourage Pyre to eat, but I do use it sometimes with him if he's on antibiotics or if he's having tummy upset. It's quite good. So, but we also use it for encouraging cats to eat, adding a little bit extra flavor that they typically quite like. Some cats don't even like this. That's because they're cats, and that's the way cats are. They're all weird, they're all individuals, they all have their own preferences. So we talked about a few things. We talked about gradual mixing of the food. We talked about flavoring the food with something that's going to make it really acceptable to the cat, something really tasty. We talked a little bit about probably the hardest thing, which is to have patience, and of course not doing stuff not making any significant changes without consulting a veterinarian first if you're trying to change the food for a medical reason to manage some health issue, because there could be factors that maybe not everybody's aware of that your vet should be aware of. So with this approach, I find that I can get just about any cat to eat just about anything. There'll always be the odd one that just will refuse to eat the food we want them to eat. And in those cases, you just have to find a workaround or do without that one really powerful tool in managing their health. But I would say, what do you think, Pirate? 90% of cats? 90% of cats plus can be gotten to eat anything if you use this kind of approach. Anything else? What do you think, sir? I think that's it. Please click like and subscribe. Feel free to share this video with your friends. And if you want to support our good work, please check out our web store. We have some adorable Squish the Cat merchandise there for you. Please give it a look. And once more, thank you very much for watching my videos.